They are the most respectful and sensitive people on the planet. They ought to be revered and taken care of by the younger members of the society and government. They stand in long queues and returned home tired and exhausted. Most of them have spent their productive years contributing to the development of the society and their families. They are the aged. What are their challenges? Why are they often neglected? What can be done to enforce their well-being? These and more will be our focus on Panorama today, coming to you from Lagos Network Center. I am Ademola Adeoye, but first the news making the rounds. Stay tuned, we shall be back shortly. President Muhammadu Buhari said the nation cannot afford to continue to compromise on the provision of quality and functional education to its people. The president said this while declaring open a special retreat of the Federal Executive Council on the challenges facing the education sector in Nigeria. He said his administration is determined to effect changes in the sector, which he described as crucial to all-round national development. Gideon Fade reports.
The level and standard of our education. Today it is those who acquire the most qualitative education, equipped with requisite skills and training, and empowered with practical know-how that are leading the rest. We cannot afford to continue lagging behind. Education is our launchpad to a more successful, more productive, and more prosperous future.
While emphasizing the commitment of his administration towards effecting necessary steps that would lead to achieving the desired result, President Buhari describes education as human right that creates a safe, healthy, and prosperous society, as well as a tool to sustaining and improving social, political, economical, and cultural aspect of any nation. One-time head at the National University Commission, Peter Okebukola, says education in Nigeria is in the hall of shame due to policy incoherence and implementation inconsistencies.
Yeah, the system. You have several recruits. There are several problems to education. But this one is different because it's convened by government that's committed to it. Education is our collective responsibility, and its failure can well be taken as the failure of the entire country.
It is a tragic situation, the president said, one that this administration is committed to resolving. From the banquet hall of the State House, Jide Onifade, NT News.
Members of the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, have embarked on an indefinite strike. Jane Ojuku visited Yaba College of Technology and brought back this report.
Persistent strike has been the bane of Nigerian educational system, and this has resulted in delay experienced by students who end up spending more years than the normal course duration.
We haven't had any lecture today. We are behind the calendar schedule.
We heard this morning that the strike has started as from today and nothing has been happening actually. People like us that have used more than what we expect. I think we should use more, nothing less than 1 year and some months for as HND students. But now 2 years and over 2 years again, it won't be nice. It won't be fair on us.
I don't put blame on ASUP who is going to strike today, because the budget on education has been deteriorating from 2015 to date. It has been dropping. The polytechnic sector, as students of polytechnic sector are ripe enough, I can even say categorically that they are better than university graduates. And all I say, there's this HND BSc dichotomy which has really been affecting HND graduates in securing better jobs, that they have to work under BSc graduates, which is very, very bad and very unhealthy to the economic system of the country.
It may be recalled that the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics has been agitating over poor funding of polytechnic education, non-implementation of the needs assessment report, and non-passage of the amended Bill of Polytechnics, among other demands. All efforts to speak with the chairman of ASUP Yaba Tech chapter proved abortive. The students, who often are at the receiving end, call for truce between the union and the federal government in the interest of the students and the educational sector.
I should just give our staff whatever they want, because we don't want it to affect our calendar. We have been far behind, and at least we want to graduate soon.
It's a sad situation. As a final year student, we do hope to finish in time, and of course, as you can see, the whole school is not the way it should. Activities have been grounded, and normal activities have not been going fine. So we just hope that this can be dealt with in time.
In Lagos, Jane Ojukwu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Minister of State Labour and Employment, Professor Stephen Ocheri, has appealed to the leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, to suspend the indefinite strike action by the union. He urged ASUP to give government a chance to address issues of concern to the union rather than shutting down the polytechnics to derail academic activities.
Not achieve industrial harmony in the face of incessant strike. Since government is taking all the necessary steps to resolve the issues raised, so I appeal on ASUP to suspend their planned strike action so that academic activities will continue to go on amicably on our campuses.
Professor Ocheri told the media in Abuja that the federal government is committed to resolving polytechnic crisis. Still on industrial disputes in the education sector, unions in the research and allied institutions have declared indefinite strike today. The unions say the government has not implemented the agreement reached on repayment of salary arrears. Kolo Mohammed reports.
It began in 2009, and in 2011 an agreement was reached between the federal government and the union for a separate salary structure known as Consolidated Research and Allied Institutions Salary Structure, CONRISE. Several industrial actions preceded negotiation meetings between the government and the union thereafter. This yielded no positive results, and in a letter dated 30th October 2017, the union gave government a 15-day ultimatum within which all agreements reached be implemented, failure of which will leave the union no option but to embark on an indefinite strike action effective Tuesday, 14th November 2017.
From the time this problem started in 2010, we have had series of meetings that have been completely without result. This struggle has taken us to the level of the secretary to the government of the federation.
The union says the recent call for no work, no pay goes against international labor laws, stating that no laws in the land prohibit strike actions. In Abuja, Kolo Mohammed, NTA News.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has urged Nigerians to remain vigilant as the pace of politics gradually pick up ahead of the 2019 general elections. He stated this in Lagos while briefing newsmen on the present administration's efforts against corruption. Anthony Forson reports.
The PDP is never allowed to come back.
The minister, who said the anti-corruption crusade is one leg of the tripod upon which the present administration sits, is alongside insecurity and revamping the economy. And to this end, it is incumbent upon Nigerians to be wary of politicians who will betray the trust bestowed on them.
That shows the rot of the past law and the level of corruption with this administration inherited. Our Commonwealth was rooted in impunity, and the same people who now say we want to come back. Indeed, it will not just be a tragedy, but a double tragedy if we ever allow these same people to preside over our Commonwealth.
Citing the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board as a success story in fighting corruption, the minister said through the Treasury Single Accounting System, the country has been able to save about 3 trillion naira.
With the elimination of thousands of ghost notes, we have saved 120 billion naira. They have removed the 1.8 billion naira in maintenance fees payable to banks through TSC. And monthly, we are saving 24.7 billion naira with the time implementation of the Treasury account.
He, however, described as unfounded rumors making the rounds that the present administration intends to arrest some members of the opposition. In Lagos, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
And now back to our focus for discussion today, which is the aged. Talking about the plight of the elderly people, I have with me in the studio Dr. David Oludare Mark Okusoya. He's the president of the Family Arc Mission. You are welcome, Dr. Okusoya.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, but before we go on the discussion, we'd like to take this package report by Annie Daniels.
Rejoicing through Jesus the Son.
What better way to appreciate God for making them celebrate yet another special day, a day dedicated just for them? Yes, they are referred to as elder statesmen, or should I say, senior citizens. They left nothing to chance to ensure they savored the joy of the day. The old, the very old, even the weak amongst them, took part in this dance exercise aimed at giving them a sense of belonging. Pa Henry Shweton and Chief Israel Uwe are 98 and 90 years old respectively. In spite of their age, they can still move around unaided. So I had to engage them in athletics competition.
I'm much particular about vegetables. I don't take solid food. Carbohydrate is not good food. And if one wants to, it's not good to have obesity. And I don't have diabetes, no hypertension, nothing.
It is a known fact that the process of aging is characterized by several challenges. Some of these senior citizens exhibited and attested to those challenges. This is why the need to cater to the needs of the elderly took center stage at this event.
And what are the needs? There are health needs, there are social needs, there are accommodation needs, there are needs of privilege.
I'm using this opportunity to appeal to children to make their parents happy. That is just it. If they cannot move, then it means you have to provide whatever they need, maybe a carer and facility for movement.
Everybody, I'm sure, looks forward to old age. While we do so gracefully, it is advisable we see to the needs of those already in that condition, who says the aged cannot live a normal and, if you permit me, sweet life.
Well, thank you, Annie, for that report. And back to the studio right now, I have with me Dr. David Oludare Mark Okusoya, who is going to throw more light on the issues, the plight of the elderly. Dr. Okusoya, you're welcome once again.
Thank you very much, sir.
Now, when we talk about the elderly, when we talk about the aged, who are the people we are referring to here?
Actually, thank you very much, and I want to say a big congratulations to Nigerian Television Authority for covering wide all what we've been doing for over 40 years now. Actually, according to World Health Organization, the elderly, or synchronizingly, as I would put it, the teenagers, which means senior teenagers, they do not want to be referred to as elderly or senior citizens or old people any longer, because that word is gaining currency in Europe within our own circumference of influence. And so they will appreciate it if they are being called and referred to as senior teenagers.
Okay.
And that word actually was apparently coined by two of our professors in Nigeria, Professor Adebimpe Aderomu and Professor Etisiobi, during their days in the university. So let me come back to your question again on who are those referred to as teenagers.
Teenagers, okay.
According to World Health Organization, a person turns to be a teenager at the age of 60. But if we have a look at our mortality rate in Nigeria, which is about 53 years now, I can say averagely you are always, once you're 50 years, you are already tending towards being a teenager.
Okay. Now let's look at some of the some of their challenges, the plight of these teenagers, especially here in Nigeria. What are some of these challenges that they face?
Thank you. There are so many challenges accrued to our teenagers in Nigeria. The first thing I want you to understand is that it's rather unfortunate that since 1989 precisely, we only have a draft of our policy concerning older persons till date. It has not even been passed as a bill and nonetheless into a law. So that's one of the challenges that they are confronted with, that the government and the policymakers has to accelerate the care for older people in Nigeria. That's one. Secondly, it will interest you to know that by year 2030, the number of teenagers will outnumber teenagers.
Really?
Yes, sir. Research-wise. So, I don't know how the government of Nigeria, they are planning to contain the volume of 78% of youth who are going to translate into being teenagers in the next 15 to 20 years from now. That's another challenge by itself. Now, streaming down to the teenagers themselves, we can see that if we as youths now are confronted with health issues, we are confronted with commuting ourselves from one point to the other, we are being challenged health-wise, we are being challenged and abused one way or the other. One thing I want you to know for sure is that any teenager, the first thing that they find as a challenge is loneliness. And if we're able to scale that and help them towards knowing that even though they are teenagers, they are elderly people, they can be assisted in the area of, being lonely, then one of their problems is being solved. We have other challenges also that I mentioned. Let me tell you briefly what happened to me yesterday at the ATM point, where I saw about 5 teenagers lined up in a very long queue. And apparently I heard one of them just said, in our local parlance, I feel like, going to ease myself. And here I am under this scorching sun. How am I going to do it? And I felt for him. Immediately I called the security officer and I said, sir, please, all the teenagers that are online here, can you allow them to go and withdraw whilst the youth, they stay behind? And somehow the security and the rest people, they cooperated. So another thing I'm thinking that we need to work at is the issue of making sure that the government creates a particular platform for them in the parliament. That's what they do in South Africa.
Okay. Well, you said something that there's a bill that has not been passed. Is there, like your own organization or your foundation or whatever, are you doing anything, to go to the National Assembly, to sort of push this bill?
Thank you very much for bringing that point. Actually, we just concluded our aging conference, the first national aging conference in Nigeria last month, October. And one of the objectives for that conference is to make sure that we all sign, I wouldn't call it a petition, we just sign a plea to the government that what they have put in place since 2007 on draft, they should please pass it as a bill to us. And that form still keeps rolling. If we can get up to about 500,000 teenagers to sign that, okay, I think it will go a long way.
Now, let me ask you one more question because of our time. Is it right, actually, because you talk about loneliness, which is one of their major challenges, for you now to take your teenager to the old people's home?
Well, that actually happens to be one of the...
Because there you have them, there are so many, they have companies and all that. Well, in the midst of their, their group.
There's a problem about that, because culturally, our cultural value does not permit us to, unlike when we are abroad, where they are developed and they know that they are well kept, they are well taken care of, there is no risk of any insecurity and abuse. So our cultural value matters a lot, because if you grow old now as a person and your son or your kids decided to take you to a home, how will you feel?
Okay. Now, lastly, is government actually playing the role they're supposed to play?
Well, I need to commend the Lagos State government here, because I was privileged to attend the first World Elders Day that they organized. And in it, the deputy governor made mention of the fact that they have actually set in motion 5 care day centers for the elderly. Okay. So I think they are trying, but they still need to do more.
That is Lagos State. That's talking about Nigeria as a whole.
Nigeria as a whole. I'm sorry to say we're yet to start.
Okay, Dr. Okusanya, it's unfortunate that we have to pause here on this discussion because of our time.
Yes, sir.
But we're still going to have you come on other programs to discuss more on the challenges of the teenagers. We're talking about the elderly now.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're moving on to other stories now. Efforts are on the way by the federal government to streamline activities of the regulatory agencies involved in the issuance of license on import and export of agricultural and other products in Nigeria. The initiative is part of measures being taken to address rejection and ensure standardization and quality of Nigerian goods outside the country. Musa Babali reports.
Quality and standard in packaging of agricultural produce are part of the reasons why produce from Nigeria are being rejected at various international commodity markets.
The real problem is that we are not adding values to this food. Not until you begin to add values to food, standard does not come in. Then we shall have to increase our ability to package and process our local goods for export purposes.
So government agencies are established to regulate and ensure quality products and produce are consumed in and outside the country. The issue of who to issue permits between standard organization, NAFDAC and quarantine services of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is the major challenge the government is addressing.
There are standards demanded everywhere. If we can strive to meet them and receive certification, there will be no obstacle to how much we can ship to the rest of the world.
To this end, certification of standard organization and agricultural quarantine services are to be recognized at both local and international markets.
That is why SON, as the national standard body in collaboration with ISO, are developing a standard to accelerate innovations in this regard to make our cities smarter.
To check this trend, the federal government says it will deal with producers and exporters of substandard products, as well as recognize those who obey the law of the land. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
And now to sports. New Super Eagles call-up Brian Idowu happy to join the team as Rafael Nadal is honored for ending the season as world #1. Amanze Marcus tells us more.
As the Super Eagles get set for Tuesday's international friendly against Argentina, Russian-born fullback Brian Idowu, who plays for Amka Palm, says he is happy with the invitation that took him to the Eagles camp in Krasnodar. The St. Petersburg-born player was under pressure to play for Russia, but Nigerian coach Gernot Rohr convinced him to play for Nigeria's Super Eagles. The Nigeria-Argentina international friendly comes up live on the network service of the NTA with 5 p.m. as studio time on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Nigeria's national under-20 women team, the Falconets, have resumed camping in Benin City, Edo State, preparatory to their second leg FIFA under-20 Women's World Cup qualifier against Morocco. The match is to be played on Saturday at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, and after a 1-0 draw in Morocco in the first leg, the Edo State government has promised to mobilize fans from neighboring Delta and Bayelsa states to cheer the Falconets to victory. In tennis, world number 1 Rafael Nadal was honored at the NITO ATP Finals as he received his ATP World Tour number 1 trophy from ATP Executive Chairman and President Chris Kemmard for ending the season as world number 1. The Spaniard clinched the number 1 ranking for the 4th time with his victory over Hyun Chung at the Paris Masters in a stellar season with 6 titles, 2 of which are Grand Slam titles. In a related development, second seed Roger Federer began his quest for yet another title at the ATP World Tour Finals with straight sets victory 6-4, 7-6 over Jack Sock at the O2 Arena in London. A sports update, Amanzi Marcus, NTA News.
Well, that's how far we can go on Panorama today, which came to you from Lagos Network Center. Thanks for watching. Good afternoon.
And there will come a time in the society where that child is going to take his pound of flesh.
Where you can actually, everything from watching a program with the child, you can start up the conversation from something on the TV and say, oh, you know.
For me, it's like, hurry up with this business. And the other one said, and so it's not about me, it's about the guys, they're not ready to marry.
Yes. If she wants to ask something, no, I know my mother very well. In fact, the most interesting one is when I put up pictures on WhatsApp, you know, Snapchat filters and all that, she will call me. Remove that picture. I got tired of all that and I said,
information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with NTA News Mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the You Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app. Your access to real-time information.
This is the network service of the NTA.
There is no doubt that technological advancement in agriculture, industry and transportation has greatly enhanced people's standard of living. However, these activities, while providing the raw materials for the production of goods and services, often result in pollution of land, atmosphere, vegetation, and water. As in other countries of the world, the Nigerian environment today presents a grim litany of woes. Every state suffers from one environmental problem or the other, in varying degrees.
When you look at the key sectors, the most important environmental issues facing Nigeria, you will see that we still have gaps in terms of progress. We still have gaps in terms of remediation and in terms of enforcement. So I think we've made some progress. I have to give them some level of commendation for that, but it hasn't been far-reaching enough.
For example, urban cities and towns in Nigeria are increasingly threatened by pollution. A United Nations report states that air pollution is a major threat to human rights worldwide, and toxic air pollutants are associated with an increased risk of disease from stroke, heart disease, cancer, and respiratory diseases. 3 million deaths each year are linked to exposure to outdoor pollution, according to estimates from the World Health Organization. There is also growing research evidence indicating